everyone, and welcome to National Treasure Hunt, the podcast where the secret lies not only with Charlotte, but also with your co hosts. I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Emily.
and since it went so well last year, we are bringing you another holiday special.
Ooh, you see our holiday gear? For those of you
We,
who can't see it, both Aubrey and I are wearing holiday
Mhm.
sweaters.
We dressed up for you guys. This is why you want to check us out on YouTube. For those who are audio only, though, I'm wearing a new sweatshirt that Brian just got me. It's the meme that went around social media a lot last year. It's like, Happy Christmas, Merry Crisis. You look unfamiliar. Are you unfamiliar with this on Instagram?
Yeah, I have no concept of what you're talking about.
Oh my God, it's so funny. You should look it up. What are you wearing?
I am wearing an ugly Christmas sweater, hard air quotes, that is themed after Manchester United.
Mm-hmm.
So like the sponsor it says Santa. The little emblem in the corner looks like a little like Christmas ornament. And
Cute.
there's some snowflakes. So.
Very on theme. I think we're both crushing it for you guys, of course. But before
Mhm.
we get into this special bonus episode of National Treasure Hunt for the holidays, it's been a while. We need to give them some screams from Parkington Lane. Let's keep them brief because we need to get into our little review today because that's what we're going to be doing is another movie review. So give us a short scream.
I was over at my friend Ankita's house. Hi, Ankita. She doesn't listen to the podcast. And she has a bowl of stem ginger
Mhm.
that is a lemon.
Oh, wait, the bowl is a lemon?
Like it's shaped like a lemon and looks like a lemon.
Got it. Good, good for you, Ankita. Really getting into the National Treasure Hunt spirit. I know she doesn't listen, but she does comment or like and participate in our social media polls and stuff very often. So,
Yes. Okay, what about you?
um, I had a dream, and I'll keep it brief because what I'm about to tell you in this dream, I have no context for. Uh, I think it came up because Brian and I have been talking a lot about planning a trip to San Antonio because I want to visit this like wildlife park and I also want to go to the Alamo and things like that. So I'm suspecting this happened because Brian and I had been talking about that, but like I dreamt that Jess Valenzuela was born in San Antonio.
Interesting.
Uh-huh, not Baton Rouge. Sorry y'all. Sorry Baton Rouge. Um, but I don't know. I like it because of the Alamo connection. Makes sense to me.
There you go. Well, if you want to join us for more dream themed screams or anything else, you can find us on social media. We're available on both X and Instagram at NT Hunt Podcast, and we're also available on YouTube. Please check out our new YouTube channel.
And specifically subscribe.
That would be great.
Okay, so in case you missed our holiday special last year, we basically watched a treasure hunt themed Christmas movie and reviewed it here on the podcast. And since y'all enjoyed that last year so much, we decided to do it again. Um Basically we'll start by giving you a brief synopsis in case you haven't seen the movie in question. Then we will, you know, review key characteristics of the movies, things that stood out to us and relate back to National Treasure whenever possible, of course. And then the most important part, we will have to conclude with a rating and like whether or not we recommend you watch this movie. Does that sound right, Em? Oh gosh, you're shaking
That
your head.
sounds
I thought
correct.
I thought you were going to like this movie. Did you not like this movie?
We'll talk about it.
Okay, you guys. Um the movie we are discussing today is called A Christmas to Treasure, and this was a 2022 Lifetime movie. It's basically a holiday rom-com. And if you want to watch it after this conversation today, which I'm really wondering if you're going to want to watch it after this conversation today, you can do so at mylifetime.com. It was free for me. Hopefully it was for you too, Em.
Yes, it was also free from me. So yeah. Um, I'll be interested to know
Yeah,
if
me
y'all
too.
watch it.
So the official synopsis of this movie is, and give me a moment, this is a couple sentences. The passing of beloved Ms. Marley reunites six estranged friends for one final hometown holiday treasure hunt. As the search unfolds and fond childhood memories are relived, sparks fly between Austin Craig, played by Taylor Frey, and his former best friend Everett Matthews, played by Kyle Dean Massey. The gang find the hidden treasure before the city has the chance to turn the Marley house into a holiday resort. But the blossoming holiday romance between Austin and Everett may turn out to be the greatest Christmas time treasure of all. That's the
Mm.
summary.
A lot that I didn't agree with in that summary, but okay.
Well, also, way to just like give away the ending. They tell us that they find the treasure, but
I mean, it's a treasure hunt movie. We're gonna assume that they do.
well, you don't even have to assume they're telling you right now. This movie, by the way, has a 5 out of 10 rating on IMDb, which in retrospect feels a little high.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to compare this for our listeners who joined us for our holiday special last year. We watched A Christmas Quest, and that has a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So last year's was rated higher, and I hated that movie, but after this experience, I kind of like that movie.
I think it earned its 1.4 extra rating points.
Yeah. You guys, we're not even burying the lead here. You're just getting our opinions right off the bat. So I'm really excited for this. As you know, Emily and I very rarely agree on like movie opinions, especially when there's a love story involved. So let's dive right in.
Mm.
Where should we begin with this conversation? The first thing that comes to mind for me is, oh, the reason we picked this movie from the title is that there's a treasure hunt involved. And so maybe we can start by talking about like the treasure hunt elements. Um, for those who haven't watched the movie, there's this town that this is taking place in. There's local legend of a treasure being buried on this Ms. Marley's property. However, this ends up being super irrelevant because the treasure hunt we go on has nothing to do with like a long lost buried treasure on her property. We end up learning that she planned this particular treasure hunt just before she died, like a couple months ago.
Yeah, I like I will say I was bought in the beginning at this
Mm,
idea that there was always this like treasure hunt going on in the town,
mhm.
blah blah blah, or like this like lore. And then the more they told me about it, the more I was like, are we sure this is what you think it is? Because then it started like the kids were coming to the house every year
Mhm.
for a treasure hunt. So it wasn't something that was like people thought was weird. It seemed like a tradition. And then
Yes.
like were they looking for the same treasure every year and never finding it? Like what is happening?
Okay, so that's the thing. That's another piece of this backstory is apparently Miss Marley would plan holiday treasure hunts for the local kids. And that's how our, I guess, six protagonists really why they're friends. They used to do these treasure hunts together. I would really appreciate some backstory about these treasure hunts. Like, what were they looking for? How is that related to this local legend? Also, kind of I mean, cute, cool, kinda random of a tradition to have as a town. Just, like, any backstory would be great.
I think they saw the opportunity for treasure hunt and decided to put a treasure hunt in the film in like three different contexts. I would hesitate to say that was three too many treasure
Yeah.
hunts.
Touche. Okay, so that's the past treasure hunts that are both relevant and completely irrelevant, apparently. The present day treasure hunt that we walk in on is the fact that Miss Marley died, and she semi-adopted these kids, even though some of them still have family. Whatever, irrelevant, but not. I just don't know the answer. Um, all of these kids have gone their separate ways. They are now in like their 30s, let's say, and they all receive letters in the mail from Ms. Marley that I guess were like mailed by her lawyer And the letters talk about there being buried treasure on her property. This did give me a little bit like a Secret Lies with Charlotte type of clue because, you know, it's the older generation, Ms. Marley, inviting the next generation into this process. There's a literal letter involved, which is kind of like the Secret Lies with Charlotte slip of paper. I might be stretching because it's hard to make National Treasure connections since this movie.
I think I'm doing the same amount of stretching that I do with many of the movies that we watch
No, this is
pertaining to
worse.
National Treasure.
This is
Mm,
what?
but I do agree that I think the letters were like a nice kind of nod. You can't even say nod. Like in my mind, nod to like National Treasure. Like we got to start it somewhere. It's an old
Right.
trope. It's been
Yeah.
used in many a thing, but cool, Ms. Marley, who was married. So why is it Ms. Marley? Should have been Mrs. Marley.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. Some of them call her Mrs. Some call her Ms. Whatever. Speaking of tropes, though, there is a map involved in this treasure hunt as we talk about like treasure hunt elements here. They have to find the map. They find it on the back of a painting in what I think was her house. There ends up being like 7 full-fledged buildings on the Marley property. And
How many acres does she have?
what are all these buildings? There are at least, I mean, I know one of them's like a lemonade stand and one of them's like an antiques house. Not that that makes much sense. But there are literally 2 buildings that they go into at 2 different times. We'll talk about when. They're both houses, I think. Like literal houses, I think. I know I already said that. I'm just really baffled.
I don't know what's happening. All I know is that like we saw the map in like B-roll in the beginning of the film, and I was like, map, this feels promising. Awesome. There's a map in National Treasure, not like your traditional map, but like
Right.
whatever. Cool. They tried to make it look really old, but they had to find this map. Okay.
Mhm.
And the finding of this map, I needed to like really suspend my disbelief here because she told them in her letter where the map was. She was like, you will find the thing behind the snow-covered bison. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And then as they're walking around the house, which by the way, zero strategy for how they went about this. They were like, let's all go
True.
into this room and talk about this thing that we did as children. And then we'll go into this room. And then they decided to split up. And I was like, okay, whatever. But like the main dude, I think he's the main dude. He's actually like the second build, but Everett, one
Uh-huh.
of the 2 love interests, right? You find out that he's basically been living at this house for like a year, and I wanted to be like, bro,
You
you
should
know this
know.
house. You don't know where
Yeah.
the bison painting is? Because lo and behold, it was behind a painting of a bison that had snow on it.
Right. Okay. But even once they found the map, can we talk about how lame the map was? It's literally just it's sort of like a map of the property with a bunch of X's on it. And somehow it's both a map of the property and they don't know where these X's are. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they were like, oh, it must be sort of over this way. Oh, wait, it's the lemonade stand. Like,
Yeah.
did
And I so like the part of what we're missing here, or part of what we didn't explain, is that in this letter, she also tells them
Mhm.
that like now that they're adults, there are going to be 6 keys and blah blah blah. Okay. So the fact that it's a riddle that they have to follow, like I can feel the national treasure of it all. Cool. Like that's, some of the clues were written out in National Treasure.
Riddle is a stretch, but go on.
It is. It was a riddle to them because none of them were Ben in this situation, okay? Michelle, who is married to the basketball player, they were apparently friends and then they got married. I don't know. I guess, yeah.
Mhm.
Literally, after they read this letter out loud, Michelle, God love her, says, 6 keys to what? Like, come on, girl. You just read it. Like, help us out a little bit here. None of them were clear on what the objective seemed to
Mhm.
be, even though
Mhm.
there were multiple X's and they didn't know where anything was.
But to be fair, I also didn't know what the objective was because all of a sudden they're, like, at this helicopter in the backyard, I think?
Not
And
all of a sudden, you're missing over my boy Clay's shining moment.
what was his shining moment? Clearly, I've forgotten.
My boy Clay had a Riley moment where they were looking at this map and they saw this helicopter on the map drawn out. And he was like, because they were like, is this X both the start and the beginning? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, ooh, Aubrey, the Charlotte, interesting. And
The
then
start
Clay's
and the
like, what
beginning, you
if,
mean they were literally synonyms?
yeah. and then And then Clay is like, what if this X on top of the helicopter, or what if the propellers on top of the helicopter is actually an X? So we're supposed to go there. And I was like, low key impressed that you knew that, Clay, because you were not being painted out to be the most intelligent of the group here.
By the way, Clay is the basketball player that Emily was referencing before, and I will say I didn't even catch any of that because I was so confused by there being a helicopter in the yard. And I
They showed
couldn't
that in the beginning.
I clearly missed it because I could not I literally do you ever fixate on something so much that you, like, don't even hear what people are saying around you because you're just so confused? That was
Mhm.
me in this scene, and then I was even more confused when they get to the helicopter, they, like, open the side, and there's a bunch of coffee mugs in it, and there are keys in all the coffee mugs, and Clay, like, takes one of the keys out, and he's like, "Oh, this is my key because it has my jersey number on it." And I didn't and, like, from a logic perspective, I understood none of this, but that really helped me to go into the rest of the key finding because I realized, "Oh, we are suspending all disbelief and just going with it, or else there is no way to watch this movie."
Oh, yeah, I mean, yes. And you gotta. I feel like they are in the film, I feel like they intend for you to just not
Think?
understand or fully think about things and just have them make sense. There were a
Mhm.
lot of things that I thought were like red herrings hidden in plain sight that were not, like that
Really?
I thought were going to be
You were
important later.
over analyzing this very, very simple movie.
Yeah, they started talking about all these like Peter Pan and all this, and I was like, ooh, okay, maybe we're doing like a like fairy tale magic inspired. No, never came up again. No idea why they had to sit down and talk about it. But I will say that the fact that they all had a key, which I agree, don't know how we got to the fact that like they all needed their own key.
And when they got to the helicopter, there's, like, 75 keys, why they don't think all 6 of their keys are amongst the 75 keys, for example.
Right.
But
Yeah, no, there's no logic to that. Um I think the fact that, and so this is me, I'm real trying to pull out a connection here. The letter did say, and someone quoted it later, we all had to be here for this. I found myself saying multiple times, like, okay, no one's gonna know, like, they're dead.
yeah.
Which sounds terrible, but like, so regardless of what the film wants you to believe, like, that they all need to be there for this, honestly, you really don't need everyone there for
No.
it. They could have just used brute force, all the keys they found and whatever, but I will say doing this allowed each of them to contribute something to the treasure hunt. Like in this case, it was finding their own key because they all found their own key. Um, and in National Treasure, Ben, Abigail, and Riley do each have their moment to contribute to finding the treasure. Like, I am not going to sit here and say that I think all three of them needed to be there for the clues to be solved. Like, I'm sure Ben and Abigail would have figured out the daylight savings time thing, but they each had a role to play, and I think that having these 6 keys allowed these individuals to each have a role.
Well, it's like one of those things where you're right. They all don't have to be there. For example, the Michelle's key is in on a wine bottle in a wine house thing, and it was from her
Cellar.
wedding. Yeah, it wasn't a cellar though. It was like its own house. Um and it was a wine bottle of a wine that was at her wedding. So like Clay theoretically would have been able to find that too cuz it was his wedding also.
Oh,
Um
yeah. No, they all could have just thought back to what they knew about their
right, about each
childhood
other.
friends.
So I would almost more likely analogize the situation to Mitch in the second movie where it's like Mitch is getting credit cuz he contributed, but like he really didn't. Like the letter, you didn't need his letter to solve the rest of the hunt. You know what I mean? That feels more likely to me. And I don't want to we don't necessarily have to go through all of where the keys were found, but just to double down on the weirdness of this property, um one of the characters' names is Tipper.
Oh my
Um
goodness. I cannot. I was like, this has to be a nickname. Never brought up that
No,
it
no.
was.
But her key is in an antiques shed where all of her old bears are. And okay, so this is my thought process. Okay, she hung out here when she was a kid. It's where her old bears are. We must be talking about teddy bears, right? Like, that's the only logical explanation. We get to the shed, and it's not teddy bears or anything like that. It's a bunch of little bear statuettes, and we're supposed to expect that this little 10-year-old girl played with these statues, and then after all of that it wasn't even in the key wasn't even in one of the bears. It was in a dodo bird statue
Yep.
because she like played a role in Alice in Wonderland once upon a time.
That was another moment where I was like, oh, Alice in Wonderland. Cool. We're going to do
Mm-hmm.
something with that. Nope.
No. Mm-mm. Another one, it was Everett's key that was I literally wrote in my notes, Everett's key is back in the house or in a different house? What was the first house with the playroom? How many houses are on this property? Whatever, it's in the fireplace.
Why? Okay. So my remaining question on that was, why is it in the fireplace? He was like, oh, the den. It'll be in the den because I lived here basically for a year. So I could like and I stayed in the den. She let me sleep on the couch so I could like be there and be
Mm-hmm.
close to her if she like needed anything. And she used to call it like my home. And
Uh-huh.
then he has a moment with Austin, who by the way is a bit of an asshole.
He's
And
awful. He's awful.
they kiss or get it close to kiss, and all of a sudden Everett's like, the fireplace. And I wanted to be like, what, did you light fires every night? Like, they never explained why his was in the fireplace in the den. It just was.
It's giving the bunnies. No, I just thought okay, but the piece de resistance is Ricky's key being at the lemonade stand, which again is its own house, and there are
Mhm.
lemons painted all over the walls. And I was like, National Treasure, finally.
I wasn't even looking at the screen at that part because the amount of secondhand embarrassment I experienced from this film,
Oh, it was
I
so bad.
could not.
Also, but
I had to look away.
so then you missed the fact that when they found his key, it was in a frozen bottle of sap or something.
I thought it was maybe like iced tea. I don't know.
Guys, it was so weird. What is this property? Okay, fine. We have to get past this treasure hunt though. In the end
Do we?
they have to dig beneath this clubhouse, which is a glorified treehouse. And what they find is a tiny box with 6 locks on it. And so you use your little keys to open the box, and inside, spoiler alert, guys. I should have said that earlier. But inside is a pearl necklace for Austin's parents and an envelope for the kids with $250,000 worth of mining stock.
Okay, hold on. Pause.
Sorry, that was the most dense sentence.
There's so much to unpack here. Starting with, and this is, I'm gonna try and connect it to National Treasure.
I'm so excited for you to do so.
I feel like all of these things were hidden in plain sight, similar to how the clues in National Treasure are hidden in plain sight. And part of the reason I say this is because this clubhouse, which they never spoke about
Mm-mm.
before the moment that it appeared,
Yep.
was decorated for Christmas. And what
Mm-hmm.
we forgot to mention was that at the beginning of the film, Everett is decorating
Mm-hmm.
this dead person's house for Christmas, suggesting that he decorated the clubhouse and maybe should have known, like, oh, this was a central location for us. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
something would be here.
Also, I mean, guys, we're leaving out a lot. I mean, I could go on for days about how they first went into the clubhouse and found a trunk that had weird costumes in it, and then that became completely irrelevant until the very end of the movie. But like, I- all I gotta say is this treasure hunt completely lacked clues, riddles, and puzzles. I don't think anything we saw was a real riddle or a real puzzle. There was a map, it was loosely interpreted. This was the worst treasure hunt I've ever seen in my life. Um, can we talk more about the characters? Because there are a lot of characters here, and it, for me, caused a slower start to the story, which reminded me a bit of, like, how Edge of History had to introduce us to the full Scooby Gang, and as a result, like, the first 2 episodes were such a slog.
We can. I'm still going to have comments about the treasure hunt throughout, though.
I mean, it's a treasure hunt movie, and that's what we're here for, but by the
Is
way, you
it?
guys,
Is it?
trying to be here for. I will say I'm the type of person, I don't know if you can relate to this, that when I see an actor in a movie and I'm like, I recognize this person, why do I know them? Like, I get really distracted. And so, for anyone who's like me, Tipper was Janet, the freshman year roommate in Gilmore Girls. That's why
Oh.
you know her. And for my Pretty Little Liars fans out there, Ricky was Aria's boyfriend Liam near the end of the series. You're welcome. I just saved you so much mental anguish. Anyway,
Thank you.
based on this 6-person character structure, this movie is like as if National Treasure had an Edge of History character structure, or if the Edge of History kids got back together 10 years later as adults, which frankly I would be interested in seeing, oddly enough.
I I'm interested to hear what you have to say because Imma be honest, I have, like, 2 people that I felt mapped onto National Treasure characters, and, like, one of them mapped onto multiple.
I could only map these people onto Edge of History characters. I couldn't do it with the regular movie because they're just so dumb. I'm sorry. They're dumb. They're not smart. And the defining feature of National Treasure's characters is that they're all geniuses. And I'm not saying the Edge of History characters aren't smart, but they're definitely less smart because they're literal kids. And there's at least, like, 6 of them. So there's, in theory, we could try to one-to-one this. And it's everything is all my analyses are gonna get thrown off a little bit because our main couple here is Austin and Everett, and so that's gonna make, like, I'm gonna have to gender bend this a little bit. Um, but immediately, we are introduced to Austin and Tipper, which was also confusing because I became very convinced that Austin and Tipper were the main characters. Um
I thought they were a couple. I thought they were married.
I thought the guy that they were pitching their business to was the other main character.
Bro, I saw him, and then I saw no offense to Austin, but I saw him, and
I
then
know
I
where
saw
you're going with
Austin,
this, and I'm about to spit
and I
take.
was like, why was this guy not the other main character?
Say it.
Because
Why?
he's got the
Why,
face
Emily?
card.
There it is. Um, so Austin and Tipper, we learn immediately are not a couple. I guess we don't technically learn that. We have to deduce it.
I didn't learn it immediately.
They are childhood friends who have grown into adult friends, and Tipper hangs with Austin's family. At first, I literally was like, is this an Emily Appleton situation where she lost her parents? No, we find out later they're just in Cabo. But because of this childhood friends vibe, I was like, Austin and Tipper are Ethan and Jess.
Okay.
And then it kind of works if you look at Clay and Michelle as Oren
Mhm.
and Tasha. They're like the power couple, complementary career vibes. Do you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, I
and
can buy into
then
that.
and then Ricky is Liam. He's a former friend and now a city hall guy. He's the skeptical one who needs to be convinced to participate. And so by the end when he and Tipper also get together, this like further cements Tipper being Jess to me.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
The one that I couldn't place was Everett. He's like the optimistic, sappy one. I mean, in a way, he has Jess vibes because of that, or like must sort of have a Ben-ish vibe to him. But that's my assessment. I also just have to say, I was so confused this whole movie because I thought there were two Michelles. Did you?
Wait, what?
Because the real estate agent's name is Rochelle,
Oh.
and
Mhm.
I two guys. Have you ever? I spent a lot of time thinking in my life about why characters are named what they're named in movies and TV shows, and I've come to the conclusion it's so that you as the viewer can't get confused on something as simple as that. This movie did not get that memo. Okay? Don't name the characters Michelle and Rochelle because that's a little too similar. I'll stop. What do you think of my character assessments, and how are you going to compare them to the actual National Treasure movie characters?
I mean, I buy what you said. Um, I feel like I went a little more purist. Um, put a little more, of the effortful stretch into my interpretation of these characters to get them
Effortful.
to fit somehow. Um, I don't have one for everyone. It's moments. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through a couple
Okay.
moments.
Mm-hmm.
So like when they find this bond, whatever, the coal mining money, I don't know. When they find that, they're like, we gotta split it 6 ways. But Clay and Michelle have already said, like, we're rich. We don't need your money. Um, and then Rick suddenly decides, like, I'm good. And then so it's like there's a bunch of there's a conversation about it. And so immediately the first time that they started talking about this, I was like, this reminds me of like Riley and how they like he was annoyed at the way they were splitting up the money or whatever. Because honestly, like Everett and Austin and Tipper, who like
Mm-hmm.
every time I'm sorry, every time I say that name, it mm,
Are you good?
I can't
Are you
even
good though?
say it. I can't say it, but um, yeah, E- e- Riley vibes all the way. Then at the end,
Mm-hmm.
spoiler alert,
Mm-hmm.
because are you all gonna watch this movie? Probably not.
No, you're not.
Um, Everett ends up getting all the money, like everyone gives their share to him, but then he donates it to the town on the contingency that they like make this house I was going to say a national park, a park. And him donating that money to me seemed very like Ben Gates, like
Yeah.
I'm going to donate it back to the people. Okay.
Yeah.
Then Rick. Rick is the one who I had a couple different moments for.
Okay.
He is a man of many roles in terms of National Treasure characters. So at one point, he is definitely Riley in my mind because, like, he has this literally one line where he tells Everett, "You are way too into this," talking about the treasure hunt. And I was like, this feels like Riley saying anything to Ben about anything. That Ben is just too into it. I could honestly, even though Riley was along for the ride in the beginning of National Treasure, like, I could see Riley having said this numerous times. Then, and this is possibly the connection that I am most proud of. At another point in the film, so honestly early on, Rick to me seems like Connor, aka Phil Dunphy.
Because he's a public
And Tip,
servant?
nope. And Tipper seems like Abigail because the friend group, cannot get into this house, even though somehow Everett has been getting into the house for a
Right.
while. I don't know. And Michelle is like, well, Tipper, you've always had a way with, I was just going to say with Connor, with Rick. So, like, you can go convince him to let us into the house. And she goes and basically convinces him to let her into the house, similar to what Abigail does when she convinces
She
Connor
actually
to let them into the Oval Office.
Yes. I actually love that connection. It's a really good one.
Thank you.
For the record, Tipper steals the key from Ricky, but
She does.
but semantics. That's really good. That's really good,
Thank you.
actually. I was gonna say that I could see no connections between these people and our real, quote unquote, real National Treasure characters, but you have proven me wrong. What I do want to say that I thought was the clearest connection between this movie and National Treasure was the idea of repairing relationships and like the treasure hunt bringing people back together. So throughout this movie, we are seeing the rebuilding of the relationship between Austin and Everett, who do get together in the end. We can talk about that. That's obviously like your Ben Abigail or your Patrick Emily reconciliation. But we also see this friend group coming back together. Just like Ben and his dad are brought back together over time. Or Ben and Abigail are brought back together in National Treasure 2 over a treasure hunt. So that to me is the closest we get to like a true National Treasure adjacency.
Yes, I agree.
We also have the chosen family concept here, which I think is very edge of history.
Mm.
Where we see Everett being very ingrained in Austin's family when they were kids. We see Tipper being a part of Austin's family. We see Everett moving back home to take care of Miss Marley when she got sick. And I think it does remind me of the Edge of History kids and how I think at some point they literally say chosen family in Edge of History, but like how Jess and
Probably.
Tasha
They were
and
a little
Orrin.
on the nose.
Yeah, a very yeah, exactly. Like the three of them living together and then the guys living together once Oren moves out and uh Liam clearly doesn't get along with his mom very well and finds himself into this group. So, yeah, I don't know if you felt that too.
No, I definitely felt that. It was I felt that, but it was also interesting to me that, like, it seemed like many of their parents were still around or
Mhm.
adjacent to the area, which to me I think made it feel a little less like this, like, chosen family out of, like, necessity and more of, like, they enjoyed spending time together. For some of them, it was out of necessity, um, because we, like, slowly start to find out that, like, Everett is basically, like, being treated as Austin's parents' like son.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but like, I mean, for people who spontaneously came back to town on a whim because of this letter, they all certainly had a lot of family demanding plans
Right.
that seemed to crop up and they couldn't get out of. And so I was like, well then your families are kind of around.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good point. Totally. Um that's most of what I wanted to talk about. Are there other things we haven't discussed that you wanted to bring up?
um I think the main thing that is left for me is just how this differs from National Treasure on one kind of like key feature.
Okay.
And you might say there are many,
I would. I would
but
be like there's only one?
to me, this one bothered me a lot. And that was that they did not seem adequately dedicated to the treasure hunt given the time pressure. And when I say time pressure, what we have not mentioned is that this house was like in the process of being sold.
Mhm.
And therefore, they were like, we need to find this treasure because it's clearly going to have money that Everett can then use to buy this house, and then it can't be sold and blah, blah, blah. But like the real estate agent literally comes to an event and tells them that she has like a buyer like flying
Mhm.
in.
The real estate agent,
Yet,
by the way, is the villain, and this is the other Michelle.
yeah. But they all just like keep going about their day. They're doing like a coat drive. Michelle and Clay are God knows where with
Mm. Yeah,
family
they just
doing
disappear
something. I
for,
don't know.
like,
They're
a
just like
third of
not
the
there.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had
For
to
like
find
half
their
the
keys.
film.
We had to find their keys first so that they could peace out, I guess.
We did. But I will say, even before that, before they found their keys, Clay was like, "Oh, look, a basketball court. Let me just shoot some hoops." And I was like, "But do we have time?" And then when after Everett found his key, Austin was like, I feel like I'm going to have a little more trouble finding my key. And like, I might be making this up, but to me, I have a distinct impression of him saying something along the lines of like, I'm still finding myself. So like, I don't know where this key is. I don't think that happened, but like, that's the vibe I got. He basically was like, I don't know where this key for me could be hidden. So we have time. Let's decorate this house for Christmas
Oh
on
my
the
god,
inside.
this brings me to my award for the worst scene in this movie, which is really hard to, again, it's hard to pick just one. But when Austin and Everett decide, yeah, let's just put up the Marleys, and they said, famous Christmas tree. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm expecting something super elaborate. It's literally a white tree with red and green balls on it. And then as they're standing in front of the tree, they're talking about how they used to put on the candy cane carnival and how they had to dress up as the Marleys candy cane kids. And I was like, you were being so normal. This is a stupid movie,
Yeah.
but you were being so normal, and then you had to go and ruin it with your candy cane kids. Shut up.
Yeah. It was weird. I think and perhaps this highlights the pacing difference, right? Because in National Treasure, I just want to be abundantly clear. Obviously, they knew there was a time crunch and they were working to it the whole time. They weren't like pausing for like decorating whatever. Honestly, like Abigail like fell in the middle of the street and almost got ran over by a car. They got up and kept running. Like we had priorities in National Treasure, okay? But the pacing of National Treasure as a film, we always kind of talk about how it's a
Yeah,
little weird.
yeah.
That being said, though, like the treasure hunt is happening well into the second part of the film, almost right up until the end. Tell me why they found this treasure, and I was like, oh, thank the Lord, I am almost done with this horrific
And there were
film. And I
20 minutes
clicked, and there
left.
were 20, 30 minutes left, and it was because they were putting on this, like, candy cane, whatever nonsense. And to me, I was just
The
like, they clearly did not, like, the treasure hunt was not the main purpose of this film, because they found it and then had like a whole other plot to wrap
Well,
up.
Emily, they had to give a reason for why they had to go inside the clubhouse and find these god awful costumes because they needed to put on the candy cane carnival as the candy cane kids.
I was really not as bothered by that as you are, but
I
okay.
am really bothered. Well, it's the whole reason for that extra 20 minutes in the movie.
It is. It also gave us, unfortunately, more time with Austin's parents, who, I I mean, I hope the actors don't listen to the pod, but need the money that they make on this film for some acting lessons. It was rough. Honestly, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, and like at a certain point they were apparently part of like hiding one of these things.
Oh yeah, they were
So
in
like
on it, but lied the whole
I was
time.
like,
And
maybe that's why they're being incredibly awkward. But the best way I can describe them is like you meet them and you're like, is this going to turn into a murder film? Because I feel as though they are just acting so weirdly that they might just murder everyone. And it's not. They're just not good actors. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, I think we did a
but they
number
kissed
on
at the
this.
end.
The parents?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't watching. Everett and Austin kiss at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They're
Yay.
together.
Happy Rick and Tipper
Yep.
got together. So like yay.
So now all 6 people who are part of this friend group are coupled up with someone from within the friend group, which is
Mhm.
a whole other thing. Um, we've done a number on this movie. So I don't think we've left much to the imagination in terms of how we feel about it, but we would be incomplete if we did not conclude with our, review, rating, recommendation. So Emily, I will ask you to give your final thoughts and rating of what I cannot remember the movie title for the life of me. What was it called?
Christmas to Treasure.
A Christmas to Treasure.
Well, I can tell you that I certainly did not treasure this film.
Mm.
Um this was a rough one, guys, even for me. I will say that I do feel like you can turn any movie, particularly a Christmas movie, into a treasure hunt movie if you are creative enough with your definition of what treasure is. Now, in this film, it felt more like a treasure hunt to me because there was like money at the end of the trail, if we're going to call it that. But the fact that there was a tangible treasure honestly made me like it a little less because it felt like it was trying too hard to be a treasure hunt movie, which is
Mm.
something that it just wasn't. Like, I would have
Yeah.
preferred if the treasure was just like all of the friends getting back together around Christmas to reconnect and apparently like pair up. I don't know. But my rating on this, unfortunately, is going to have to be 3 out of 8 people unnecessarily involved with the love life of Austin and Everett. I just want to for clarity's sake, they do not seem good for each other. Like, it
Mm.
seems like a toxic relationship.
Mhm, mhm,
But there
mhm.
should not have been 8 other people involved in the relationship.
Touche. I don't disagree
What
with you.
about you, Aubrey?
Yeah, I hated this. But, to be more nuanced, I didn't hate the dynamics between the friends, probably because it really did remind me of Edge of History, but I really, really disliked the treasure hunt. Um, I don't care that there was actual money at the end. I do agree. Literally, like 30 minutes in, I was like, is this going to be the treasures, the friends we found along the way? Is this going to be one of those? So I didn't actually mind that there was literal money. I was like, all right, at least you got that. But to me, there's such a distinct difference between a treasure hunt, which in my brain at this point has a historical component to it. And I thought we were going to get that with the whole, oh, local legend has it that there's treasure buried on Miss Marley's land, right? But there's a difference between a treasure hunt and a scavenger hunt. This
Mm.
was a scavenger hunt. And I started with this, I'll end with it. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I vastly preferred the treasure hunt in last year's Christmas special to this one. And if y'all were here last year, you know I didn't like that movie too much either. So my rating, my official rating, is 1 out of 6 poorly hidden keys.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So
great, y'all.
so to wrap up, I just have to acknowledge, I thought it would be really hard to find, like, movie candidates for holiday specials, but, apparently Christmas treasure hunt is a whole subgenre I did not know existed. So, if y'all are enjoying this and you enjoyed last year's, there should be plenty of fodder for holiday specials on National Treasure Hunt for several years into the future, and I just really suspect we're gonna hate them all, like the movies, but we will, because we love y'all so much, we will endure the pain for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an hour and a half of my life that I'll never get back.
Mhm.
But in maybe positive news, I've also found a way to make every Christmas film basically about a treasure hunt. So you can also take that challenge and we will
Wow.
figure it out.
You
So,
definitely you definitely could have saved that for a Scream, but
no, 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 no. I think it's important for the people to know because what I'm going to ask them to do is find us on social media
mhm.
on both X and Instagram at NT Hunt Podcast. Let us know what you thought of this episode and also like let us know what you'd prefer for us to do next year if you even want us to do this again. Um and then please 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 if you have not already subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, we're sitting here, we're messing with lighting. I have to like sit up straight. It's a whole thing. We're putting in a lot of effort for y'all. So like please just subscribe.
Even if you're not gonna watch over there, just hit subscribe. I know that sounds crazy, but it will help. And you guys, more video and audio to come because season 12 of National Treasure Hunt premieres in early January 2026. We're coming back so, so soon, you guys. And until then, I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Emily.
And thank you so much for joining us on our National Treasure Hunt. Happy holidays, everyone.